Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One of the names of Vishnu, which also means one of the names of Krishna, is Avartina. Avartina. I spoke on that previously, but I have a few more thoughts on that now. Avartina means he who makes revolution. Not French Revolution, but just things that make things go round and round and round. Well, of course, in one sense, he also made the French Revolution. He's the cause of all causes. But man proposes and God disposes, so don't blame him. Actually, I have a question which has got nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, but it just popped into my mind right now. And I guess I'm in the right place to ask the question, so I'll ask it. This French Revolution has had a tremendous impact on the whole of the Western world and the whole of the Western way of thinking, because prior to that, there was no such thing as people's rights, or it was just something completely new, and the overthrowing of the old order by force. And it started, well, it was based on what appeared to be noble ideals, but one immediate and major result was some of the most horrible human behavior in the history of mankind, which in one sense goes to underline the lack or the failing of secular ideals, that without being fixed in the goodness that comes from Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, that even the very highest ideals can very quickly degenerate. Yeah, everyone please turn off your cell phone. And in the name of benefiting the people, then you cause great misery to many other people. Anyway, my question is that, well, what are the French people proud of the revolution when they think back on it, or you think so? Despite all the horrors that came out of it, and actually it failed because Napoleon came out as a dictator. So it's on the whole, it's considered something definitely very significant in the history of France, but it's considered something to look back on with pride, is it?
Yes. The independence, freedom is the highest pinnacle.
Right, in America also, the land of the free. But it's all just in the mind. I mean, even politically and socially, where's the freedom? We understand from the philosophical and metaphysical standpoint that there is no freedom in the material world. We're all bound by material desires. But even socially and politically, liberty is only possible when people can trust each other to act responsibly. It's described in Bhagavatam that in Satya Yoga everyone was a Paramahamsa, and so there was no Varnashram, there was no social system, it was anarchy. But anarchy is possible when people they're not exploitive. So, and revolution is considered like an acceptable part of the French, what shall we say, psyche. In 1968, there's almost another revolution. Yeah. So back to the original revolutionary, Krishna. He He makes everything go round. Revolution is the nature of the universe. Everything is spinning. The planets are spinning. And even if we say socially revolution, it's like that, because there's someone is in power, someone throws them out, and then someone else throws them out, and then it goes on and on. I don't want to think it. A revolution is made to restore or to bring in liberté, égalité, fraternité, harmony, l'harmonie. But then, as George Orwell, in his satirical book about the Russian Revolution, Animal Farm, he showed that the revolutionaries, they just become like the previous exploiters. So the real revolution for the jiva is to go against everything in this world. Because the dictators and the revolutionaries, they're all actually in the same illusion that we can enjoy this world. They're fighting over who can enjoy this world. So even in the Western world, there have been different kind of revolutionaries. Francis of Assisi was famous. He rebelled against the bourgeoisie exploitation and voluntarily became a poor man for the sake of Jesus. Francis of Assisi. Francis de Assisi. So if we get into Krishna's revolution, then we can come out of this material world, which is Shrishti, Sthiti, Pralay, creation, maintenance, destruction, followed by again creation, maintenance, destruction. So revolution in this material world, it means always devolution. Sometimes you go up, but basically we are always down. So the real revolution is to come out of this revolving in different species of life. So Krishna makes all the planets go round. He makes all the people, all the jivas go round and round in the cycle of birth and death. And there's something else. Well, there are many things which go round and round, from the atomic level, subatomic level, to the cosmic level. Everything is going round and round. But also our heads are going round and round. Our heads, yeah. The head is spinning. We all have this experience when we become giddy, that we can't understand or see anything clearly. It's an uncomfortable situation. Earlier this year, for some time, I was suffering from giddiness. So if I just move my head like this, dung, 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 my head would spin. It's a very uncomfortable situation. So people who become intoxicated with alcohol, they also feel that the head is spinning. I have had that experience. I think most of us in this room have had that experience. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, not for the last 40 years or so. So everyone's head is spinning in illusion. We can't see anything clearly. We can't focus on anything clearly. We're in a very uncomfortable situation. So Krishna causes that also. In the sense that he provides the facility for the jivas who want to forget him to forget him. And then their position, instead of being Vyavasayatmika buddhireke kurunandana, focused on Krishna, it becomes Bahushakha hiyanantascha buddhyo vyavasayanam. The intelligence cannot be fixed. It goes off in many branches, and thus because it's not fixed, it goes round and round and round, looking at this, looking at that, looking at everything else. And in the next name of Krishna I'm going to speak of, this not after Avartana, but is in my sequence of speaking, is Prasannatma. One of the meanings of which is clear-minded or clear-headed.
We have Prasannatma again.
Very good. So Krishna is very clear-headed. His head is not spinning. So I have to speak about clear-headed Krishna. But Krishna's head also spins. This Krishna who with his clear-headedness makes everything spin, he organizes all the universes. His head also spins. If you go round and round, your head will spin. So Krishna goes round and round in the rasa dance. Rasa means, it literally means a dance in which you go round and round in a circle. And Krishna, on seeing Radha, his head spins. Sometimes she rejects him, don't come here. And Krishna, he forgets, he's Lord of millions of universes, millions of Vaikuntha planets, and his head is spinning. What shall I do now? So, name 239, Prasannatma. Prasannata is a well-known term, at least in Indian languages. Does that come in Tamil? Prasanna? Tamils are different from all the Indian languages. In all the other languages it comes. Happy, yeah. Happy. In, you don't know that term? Yeah. Sindhi. In Hindi it comes up, yeah. It's common in North Indian languages. Prasanna. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In all the Indian languages it comes up. Prasanna, it's somewhat high. Brightness, yeah, can be brightness also. So, prasannata means happiness. So the name Prasannatma means one whose very being is happy. It's, there's a well-known verse in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Krishna states that one who's situated in the spiritual position, his very being is happy. Now that's different from the happiness of this world, in which we sometimes feel happy and sometimes feel distressed. But Krishna's whole being is happiness, which means there's no question of unhappiness. Even if we hear descriptions of Krishna being unhappy, we should understand that just like in the material world, the happiness and the distress it's all distress. And in spiritual existence, the happiness and the distress is all happiness. That is the highest stage of spiritual existence. The impersonalists, they aspire to be unconscious. Actually not unconscious, but it's a state of consciousness in which there's simply contemplation, but without any specific object, which is a strange idea. But the idea is that in this material world it's all distress, so let us be aloof from that. And they feel happiness in the relief from the distress of this world. Just like if someone is beating you and they stop, great. Anyone want a demonstration? That's not actual happiness, but we feel because it's less suffering than previously, so we feel, that's very good. But there is the positive condition of positive happiness. So that we may hear of Krishna's unhappiness, just like I was saying, that Krishna, he may feel desperate that Radha is rejecting me. But always in Krishna's pastimes, whether it's explicitly happy or distressed, even in distressed, there is happiness because it all produces rasa. This morning we were, in that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were discussing, Pancha tatta ek vastu nahi kichu bhed, Rasha ashadite tabu bibidha bibed. That Krishna, the absolute truth is in essence one, but for tasting rasa, he becomes as if divided. Krishna is described in the beginning of Rupa Goswami's work, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishna is described as Akhila Rasamrita Murti, which means that he is the very form of all nectarian rasa. Source de nectar. Yeah. I was just going to say, how do you translate rasa in French or English? You can ask the question. It's a rhetorical question. There is no, you can, sentiment. That was I was saying this morning. It's a sentiment. Yeah. But there is actually no proper, it is, rasa is, the whole concept of rasa is unknown in the whole Western civilization. Which means that they missed everything. For all their big buildings and big revolutions, and they missed it, the whole thing. That life is love. And love doesn't mean that silly emotion that captures people. L'amour is a very important word in French language, but they don't know what it is. So, Krishna is the fountainhead of all rasas. This is in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is in many ways the most important book ever composed. Now we always hear Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important, but the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a guidebook of how to understand and enter into the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is rasa. Pibata Bhagavata rasa. It's in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it's Vyasadeva says, drink this rasa. So what is that rasa? That is analyzed in great detail in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in the beginning he also, Rupa Goswami, he gives guidelines of how to practice bhakti sadhana so that we can become free from the illusion of trying to enjoy the rasas of this material world. Then we become qualified to enter to taste the rasas of the spiritual world. So rasa, even before Rupa Goswami, rasa was a big topic among Vedic dramaturgists and poets. But Rupa Goswami, he showed that the real rasa is not of this material world. And rasa, actual rasa, is centered on Krishna. The supreme truth or the spiritual nature is Sat Chit Ananda. Eternity, bliss, and eternity, knowledge and bliss. So sometimes in going through this Vishnu Sahasranama, sometimes we see what are the important qualities of Krishna. So sometimes we think beauty, Krishna's beauty is most important. Sometimes we have to say His mercy is most important. Sometimes we'll say His love is most important. But actually on contemplating this verse, Prasannatma, we have to say His happiness is most important. His beauty is important because it gives happiness. His love is important because it gives happiness. His mercy is important because it gives happiness. Every living being by nature wants to be happy. Everything that every living being does at every moment is meant for the happiness of that living being. But everyone is missing the point in this world. That point is Krishna. So Krishna is ever blissful. And bliss is not just a state as some transcendentalists or quasi-transcendentalists or almost transcendentalists. They think that bliss, you just Just bliss. Just bliss, that's all. Sit on a cloud or float, or be a cloud and be blissful.
No.
But bliss is enhanced by sharing with others. Thus there Krishna has his blissful pastimes. As Srila Prabhupada noted that we never hear about Krishna going to work in a factory. His activities are simply full of bliss. And we say, well, he also had to go to work. His parents engaged him in child labor. They sent him out at the age of 5 to look after the cows. But that for Krishna is his supreme bliss. All his pastimes are full of supreme bliss. Krishna is known as Atmarama, one who takes pleasure in himself. And Aptakama, all his desires are fulfilled. But he, even though he has nothing to gain from anyone, because he is fully satisfied in himself, but he expands himself as all the living beings because he wants to share his happiness with others. His very being is happiness. How happy is Krishna? If we take all the happiness that everyone has ever experienced in this material world, every living being, and put it all together, put it in the happiness collection box, it won't even measure one drop of the great ocean of happiness that Krishna experiences at every moment. So, our God is a happy God. But happy doesn't mean, as is often misunderstood in this world, happiness means irresponsibility. Krishna is most responsible also. He makes the world go on. He's not negligent in his duties. That verse is there in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. So that describes one whose being is happy because he's not contaminated by the material modes of nature. So that also certainly refers to Krishna, but Krishna's happiness is much, much more than simply the absence of distress. Certainly Krishna has no association with matter or material desires. There's no question of that in Krishna. He's not subject to the imperfections of this world. So anyone who rises above the condition of this world, certainly they become free from distress. So Krishna is advising in Bhagavad Gita to come to that state, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. He is advising to come to that condition of spiritual existence in which one is situated in happiness, with no hankering for anything of this world, and no lamentation. One sees all living beings as in the same way, and in this way one attains to devotion to Krishna. So another meaning of Prasannatma, you were saying that the sense of brilliance. So it means clear mind. One who has no material desires, he becomes happy on the spiritual platform. And one who has no material desires also has clarity of mind. In material existence, our whole thought process is muddied by material desires. But in spiritual existence, we see everything clearly. So Krishna sees everything clearly, which is good for everyone else, because to manage all the affairs of the universe, you should know what you're doing. There is much revulsion in the Western world against the conception of God that has been propagated within it as a vindictive old man. But vindictiveness is not a quality of a spiritually advanced person. Krishna has very clear intelligence. He doesn't hate anyone. He doesn't hold grudges against anyone. He knows what he's doing. He punishes the sinful or the jivas who have fallen to the position of sinfulness to help them to come to the position of non-sinfulness. So Krishna sees everything very clearly, has very clear understanding. In material existence, we're just completely bewildered. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. Various philosophers give their various ideas, but they really don't know what's going on. But Krishna knows everything very clearly. And not only knows, but understands. And he knows what to do in every situation. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani tabhutani mangtu vedana kaschana. Krishna said, Krishna knows everything past, present and future, but no one knows him. So, another accusation of the atheists is that belief in God is anthropomorphism. That we, human beings imagine a God, that God is created in the image of man. And that's the theory of anthropomorphism is quite applicable to the imagined vindictive God of Abrahamism. But actually God, Krishna, is as he is. He is not subject to our conditions or imagined by us. Krishna knows everything, everywhere, down to the minutest detail, microcosmic and macrocosmic. He manages and oversees everything from the smallest detail up to the whole cosmic manifestation. He arranges that different jivas get different situations so that they interact with each other in a manner so that each one is in a situation which is suitable for the enjoying or suffering the results of their previous karmic activities. And also for fulfilling the desires that they have cultivated. And it's always getting recalibrated because at every moment we have new desires. So it's extremely complex. But Krishna has the clear intelligence of how to organize everything. And not only to organize all of this, but also in such a way that he gives the jivas the opportunity ultimately to come to him. So this is not possible for jivas like us. But we can meditate on Prasannatma, the infinitely blissful and clear-minded Supreme Lord, so that we may also share in his bliss as he wants us to share in his bliss. Even though he is infinitely blissful, his bliss increases when the jivas turn toward him and share his bliss. And also, it's necessary in spiritual consciousness means to have a clear mind. Spiritual consciousness means clear consciousness. So, by meditating on Krishna, who is Prasannatma, then also our consciousness becomes clear. That means we can distinguish between what is matter and what is spirit, what we should do and what we should not do, what is pleasing to Krishna, what is not pleasing to Krishna. So, I think I didn't meet Prasannatma Prabhu previously, and just, it happened. Soul is by nature very happy, and just, so it just happened that I was going to speak on this today. And there must be Krishna's arrangement. Serendipity is called, but that means That's from our perspective. It's Krishna's arrangement. You are happy. You are always happy. The servant of he who is always happy should always be happy himself. There's another disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Prasannatma, Indian, he lives in America. Yeah, I haven't seen him for a long time. He was married to Parvati, who's been living in Vrindavan for many years. Hare Krishna. Any questions about this? Srila Prabhupada always say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna comes to this world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to this world, all the great acharyas, Prabhupada came to this world. What for? Well, that question could be answered in many ways, but we can put it simply to make us happy.
One who chants Hare Krishna even once should be, that's the end, the last word in spirituality, chant Hare Krishna. So it should be in a sense full of bliss, that person. So how come we can see for ourselves and others, after having chanted 20, 30, 40 years up to whatever, still we are meant to induce others to chant, but what if ourselves were not saturated with bliss? We are even sometimes at times feeling unhappy. So how can you give some remedies how to make up for these shortcomings so that we can be fully happy ourselves and give it to others also when needed?
Okay, well, Rupa Goswami has already given the remedy in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He's given the process of sadhana bhakti, by which we become gradually purified. 20, 30, 40 years where you see Markandeya Rishi was millions of years meditating. Normally it takes many, many births to even come to Krishna consciousness. So, chanting Hare Krishna, in that also the song that we sung just now, that has to be in pure consciousness. Bishoy Charya Kobe Shuddha Hobe Mon Tobe Hama Herabo Shri Vrindavan. When we give up desires for sense gratification, our mind is pure, then we can see Vrindavan. So chanting clears the mind, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. But it's also a gradual process. We have to become free from offenses and from material attachments. And we have to follow the process very carefully. If the doctor may give us some medicine, but he also has to give not only the medicine, but he says how to take it exactly. Take 2 pills after lunch, and don't take this food. Of course, in Western medicine they don't tell you, but in Ayurveda and many other systems of medicine, there are restrictions on the diet. Actually, in Western medicine also, for in some conditions. In Ayurveda, there's always dietary restrictions, and they'll say things that don't take cold bath in the winter, and there may be so many restrictions that we have to follow so that we can get healthy. So the medicine may be effective, but if it's very effective, but if it's a chronic condition, then it will take time for the medicine to have some effect. And if we don't follow the doctor's dietary and behavioral prescriptions and restrictions, then the effect of the medicine will be it won't manifest its full effect. So that gives some idea of why when we chant Hare Krishna, the whole spiritual world doesn't manifest to us. Just say Hare Krishna once and then we see the whole spiritual world immediately. We're chanting Hare Krishna for 40 years, every day minimum 16 rounds, but have we chanted Hare Krishna once, actually? Crying, as a child cries for the mother, Krishna, Radha, please engage me in your service. Please engage me in your service. So, we're practicing. Sadhana means practice. We're practicing chanting Hare Krishna so that we can ultimately, eventually, chant Hare Krishna. Anything else? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I should come more often to Paris. Well, I'm still here.
Yeah, make it a point to come regularly, if possible. We have the dearth of senior devotees.
Yeah.
We have to realize.
We need more sannyasis, actually. Our movement needs more sannyasis. We need more sannyasis to come around. Because, of course, everyone's a devotee. You don't have to be a sannyasi to be a devotee. Can translate? But most devotees, they have various worldly duties to perform. And it may be difficult for them to have the same kind of absorption that those who have nothing else to do but to practice Krishna consciousness have. So sannyasis are supposed to dedicate all their time to direct service to Krishna, hearing, chanting, writing, preaching, all these things. So that's supposed to inspire others. So actually our movement needs many more sannyasis. Those who have been chanting Hare Krishna all these many years, they could also maybe aspire for that. Yeah, you had another question?
That we derive a tangible, immense spiritual benefit when we chant Hare Krishna in a congregational manner, in a group. We all know it's much more powerful than in chanting individually. Yet, we can see that, especially here in France, he's quite dedicated to chanting. He knows that it's hard to enthuse devotees to get together regularly and really absorb themselves into that Harinam. We all know that everyone will benefit individually and collectively. So how to inspire devotees to regularly get together and chant deeply in a group, in a congregation? He's saying, according to him, there's difficulty to find how to inspire those devotees. Some of us haven't tasted that inner taste of chanting together in a group. So he's very much concerned with that, Ramanaji Prabhu, how to inspire everyone to regularly come and chant fully and in an absorbed manner the mantra Hare Krishna.
Well, you can only try. There's no special secret to what should be done, but you can't legislate how others will respond. You didn't exactly translate that, but I heard that you spoke about the Kirtan Mela, Kuli Mela. Well, I wanted to comment on that actually. So, in the Kirtan Melas, the idea you just come together and chant. And it's not taken into consideration whether devotees are regularly following sadhana, following principles, practicing strictly or any such thing. Now, Krishna consciousness is a holistic process. All around. So, to emphasize that everyone should come and chant the holy name without also emphasizing that not only at the Mela but throughout the year we have to chant, we have to follow sadhana, we have to follow principles, that's not going to have the effect of actually awakening taste for Shuddhanama. Yeah, if we encourage devotees to come and just chant for 7 days or whatever, but we don't emphasize that we have to follow every day all the principles and rise early, chant, all these things, then it's not going to give rise to Shuddhanama. You can't be a pure devotee when you want to be, and then be whatever else you want to be at another time. It's a 365 days a year, 24 hours, every moment. It's an endeavor which has to go on at every moment of our life. So Srila Prabhupada made a daily program of Shravana Kirtana, not only chanting but also hearing about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Without hearing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in the manner that Srila Prabhupada explained it, so that we can understand who is Krishna, what is our relationship with him, how we should act in that relationship, then chanting or having 7 days of chanting once a year or twice a year, that will degenerate into entertainment or musical performance. That I've seen in Bengal, how because the culture of chanting, of kirtan, is very strong there. But at least in recent generations, the preaching of pure devotional service and the practice of pure devotional service has not been emphasized nearly as much as the chanting. So the kirtan melas, or as they are called in Bengal, nama jogya, they have degenerated into a commercial entertainment, largely. So it's true that we should try to inspire devotees to come together to chant, that's a fact. But to get the taste for chanting, they're going to have to work on themselves all the time, according to the process given by Rupa Goswami, given by Srila Prabhupada. And, well, I'll just say a little bit more about that I already see signs of that in our kirtan melas, because those who are called to sing, it's not questioned what principles they follow, how if they're chanting 60, if they can sing nicely, then they're a good kirtaniya. And those who are considered the best kirtan, because the kirtan melas are being held all over the world, the best kirtaniyas are flown in to different places. And because they have families, then they also need they can't just go on singing and singing, they need something for their families. So we have professional kirtaniyas. So they depend on that for supporting their families, so they have to make sure they please the crowd. Then to pay them, the organizers, they have to raise funds also. So they're not going to have any preachers coming in who tell all the devotees coming that material life is miserable, you have to get free from it. They're not coming for that. They don't want to hear that. They just come for the bliss of kirtan. Yeah, there's another question. Yeah.
Kirtan can be done just like we did this afternoon.
Yeah.
Harinam.
Yeah.
If somebody loves to chant,
Yeah.
please devotee.
Yeah.
Can please come in the street.
Yeah.
Because it's twice powerful as to chant kirtan between us.
Yeah.
If you go outside and give the mantra to other people, then it becomes more and more and more strong.
Yeah.
And the bliss also becomes very great.
Jai.
So if people like to chant with the devotee, please come to Harinam.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can do also
inside also. And another thing is that please. Yeah.
We do it in Paris.
Yeah.
Goabata Prabhu was doing it. He's not here anymore, so. But we can do it every week, twice a week.
Jai.
At least Saturday. If somebody like to chant, then please come to Harinam. It's a great yagya.
Yeah.
Because also you false ego has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is also inside chanting just for devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did both. Go out on Harinam and inside. But the Kirtan Mela concept of bringing devotees together to chant, you can do that with two. If you only find 2 or 3 people, you can do it with them. I'm sure you're doing it with them also.
You're saying not necessarily on a big scale, but at least locally for Paris, is very much concerned that once a month at least we should be able to gather ourselves and chant in a congregational manner. And because he wants devotees to really feel the bliss of chanting together. And he's saying, even more so than the Harinam, to him it's more easy to organize a sit-down place. At least the devotees can meditate on that particular occurrence, get there. That is his input.
Okay, my answer to this is, if you're not able to inspire those who are already the devotees who are stuck in their ways, preach, make more devotees, and inspire them in the same mood that you have. People who take to Krishna consciousness tend to follow those who first bring them in and continue to guide them. So you can preach and bring new people in and train them up from the beginning. This is what we do. We sit and we chant Hare Krishna for hours together. Everything comes from preaching. From those who already come to Krishna consciousness or those you may bring in, you have to continue preaching to them. Srila Prabhupada was always preaching to his disciples the same things over and over again to keep them on the right path. The last time I had darshan of Srila Prabhupada was 1 month before Srila Prabhupada passed away. And there were all these senior devotees around him, and Srila Prabhupada was preaching about how we have to control the tongue and the senses. So what you find most important in Krishna consciousness, you find those who are receptive and preach and preach and preach. Everything comes from preaching. And effective preaching comes from serious practice.
I had a question concerning the relation of the disciple and spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada is always stressing in all his books, lectures, and any other material that one should approach a spiritual master and take shelter at his lotus feet. And the issue for us in France is that there's actually almost no sannyas, and sometimes some are coming. So generally we have to go very far to get one. And the idea is that how can we serve properly a spiritual master which is not really accessible, and all the issues that may happen because of that?
Well, you're using the term sannyasi and guru interchangeably, but it's not only sannyasis who are gurus. Well, maybe some of the local devotees should step forward and take that responsibility. And formally and informally, they can take that responsibility. Those who have been practicing Krishna consciousness for many years, they can also, if they're recognized for their spiritual advancement and ability to guide others, that would be very helpful for everyone. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced the giving of sannyas, so that others could, for the person who's taking sannyas, the formality of sannyas may not be required, but so that others can recognize here is someone who they should listen to and follow. But it's not only that, it's not that sannyasis have a monopoly on spiritual teaching and guidance. So maybe you should look up to local devotees who are practicing for many years, who are preaching for many years. They may not be sannyasis, but just recognize them for what they are and encourage them to share what they have imbibed over all these years. So that's one suggestion. Guru doesn't have to be someone who comes in for 2 days every year or 2 years. You can find gurus locally also. For those who have gurus who are not seen very much, well, the modern world gives ways to hear lectures, even though you may not be present. And of course there is reading Srila Prabhupada's books, hearing his lectures, and in this situation I would say take advantage of whatever association you can get. It is there. Do the best you can. When I joined, I didn't have personal association with Srila Prabhupada. Quite soon after I joined, I was alone or with very few devotees for most of the time over several years in places like Bangladesh and Burma. So I took shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. So everyone can do that. Anything else?
On the level of the GBC body, perhaps they should... Okay, sure. I mean, France is in a bad shape, you know.
France is in a bad shape. But you know what? Italy's in a bad shape.
Not as bad.
Switzerland's in a bad shape. Spain's in a bad shape.
Okay.
Portugal's in a bad shape. Ireland's in a bad shape.
It looks like it follows the economy of Europe.
Sweden's in a bad shape.
Sounds like the economical report as well. Okay.
It's up to you!
Definitely.
Haribo! Krishna send you here.
Okay, Maharaj. Sannyas may not be the right time, but I'll try to.
No one ever thinks it's the right time for sannyas. Those who do, those who think it's time for me to take sannyas, in many cases, they shouldn't be taking sannyas.
Okay. So, you mean to say those who were thinking are not ready are ready?
Srila Prabhupada himself, Mahabhagavat, come from the spiritual world to save us all. He himself said that my spiritual master forced me to take sannyas. Definitely the situation of the Krishna conscious movement in France is in many ways lamentable. But Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochati na Kankshati, on the spiritual platform one is blissful and doesn't lament. So it's up to you, it's up to all of you to rise to the situation. Take the challenge to manifest Srila Prabhupada's desire here. And in this situation, I would rather go with Prasannatma Prabhu's proposal rather than Ramanuji's proposal. We need to get out. That is the great need. It's not saying we can't or we shouldn't get together once a month and all have kirtan together. Actually, we should do that every day. That was Prabhupada's program. But it's much required to get out to the public also. So you gotta preach strongly about preaching, about everything else. People are going to hell. It's not a joke. Every second shop we were passing was a meat shop, practically. You got to try and do something to help these people. Many years ago, I was in a Bhagavatam class in Bombay, which was given by Hari Shauri Prabhu. Hari Shauri Prabhu was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant for a few years. So I think this class must have been like in the late 1980s, something like that. And he related a dream that a devotee had told him that he had had. And he said that, well, we can't always trust dreams, but this one I take it as significant, so I'm going to relate it. In which the devotee was complaining to Srila Prabhupada that, our movement, there's this problem, that problem, so many problems. And then Srila Prabhupada gave him a vision of what's going on in the world, all the horrible things. And Prabhupada, after that, he said to the devotee in the dream, just try to do something to save them. So I personally I'm also very distressed at not only the situation of our movement in France, but in many aspects of our movement all over the world. But we have to try the best we can to do whatever we can to push on Prabhupada's mission. You can go out on Harinam, distribute books, and pray to Prabhupada that, and please send us some helpers. if we take up the preaching mission very seriously, then definitely there can be progress. We just saw in the last couple of days, we did that public program with a few people coming, but some were seriously interested. And if they're cultivated, then I think some of them can take up Krishna consciousness as a significant part of their life. I think there are several devotees here who have been practicing just for the last 2 or 3 years, something like that. How did that happen? They didn't just they were parachuting as a hobby, and they happened to land in the temple. It wasn't like that. Someone went out and preached and spoke to them and spent time with them and convinced them and guided them. So there's not really that much point in asking me, what should we do? You know what to do. You just have to do it. And if even one person becomes benefited, then that is progress. We want that the whole world will chant Hare Krishna, but we have to start at the grassroots level. So it is going on. In many parts of the Western world, we find that our devotees are mostly preaching to people of Indian origin who have migrated to various parts of the world. Well, that's good. But we shouldn't forget the local inhabitants. But if the Indian people are coming more, which is more likely because they can relate to this culture more easily. So they can also be engaged in going out among the local population and distributing books and doing Harinam and everything else. There's just some thoughts. Hare Krishna.